Hello and welcome to Aeroshift channel. In this short tutorial, I'm going to show you a few techniques in the 2D meshing. So as you can see in this picture, I have two meshes here on the left and the right. The one on the left, you can see that the nodes are not coincident, whereas on the right, the nodes are coincident. So I'm going to show you what was the problem in this previous mesh and how I corrected it here. So this is a mesh of this particular wing box where I have the skin, a rib and spars. So in this tutorial, I'm just focusing on just this junction here, which is the skin and the front spar. So I'll go to the model and show you what I have done. So if I want to first, I'll show you the geometry. So I have these three groups, as you can see here. So the first option what I have done is I have created a partition and a fuse of the shapes. So in this case, I had not considered the rib. So I just considered the skin and the front spar, and I fused it as well as I partitioned it, and I tried to mesh it. And as you can see here, the mesh I got, I used the option of quadrangular mesh. So I'll show you the details of that. So the quadrangular mesh, the options are I selected the 2D quadrangular mapping, and then I chose the wide discretization in 1D with a local length, and the length I had defined was a particular length so that I get about 6 elements along the length direction. So when I chose this is the type of mesh that I got. The reason for this I figured out was that because the spar geometry and the skin geometry, even though they were intersecting, the nodes or the points vertices were not actually quite coincident. So what I had to do was I had to go to the geometry and create lines and then partition them again. So if I go to skin, what I did is I created these two lines on the skin surface by projecting the point from the spar. So I projected the point from the front spar onto the skin and joined up the two lines, created the lines, and then I fused, or I partitioned. I created a partition. So in the geometry, I'll show you the option what I have used. So in the geometry, I selected the spar, the skin, and the lines that I had created. So these four, and then use the option of creating a partition. So when I did that, that's what I got. So that's the partition that was created earlier, and I meshed this partition because now I have the coincident lines on both the skin as well as the spar. When I did the mesh, the resulting mesh is as shown here. So if I zoom into the area, so as you can see here, so I got the coincident nodes, and I can control the element numbering. For example, let us change the element length to some different value and see how that mesh changes. So if I were to change the local length to a smaller value, so I'll go to so I'll define a new length now. So new local length. Let us select half of the previous value. So earlier I had 40, now I'll select 20. So if I mesh it now again, I should get much refined mesh, as you can see here. But the consistency, the point I wanted to show you was when you refine the mesh as well, the refined mesh still maintains the common nodes because the point geometry that was associated was consistent. So that's all I wanted to show in this short tutorial. In the mesh options, generally what I do is I use the quadrangular mapping mesh that I have shown here. But for comparison, if I were to use a different type of mesh, which is net gen 1, net gen option, so it does result in a kind of a okay mesh, but as you can see here, it generally results in kind of not very good map meshing. So I prefer the quad mapping mesh, as long and define the geometry in such a way that it is acceptable to mapping. So that's all in this tutorial. Thanks for watching.